Today is September 11th, and here we are in Ukraine, a country that experiences a different type of 9/11 almost every day. And these guys, Sergey and your team, Ukrainian volunteer firefighters here in Odessa, you're able to do your job in many ways thanks to this equipment from the United States, this fire truck behind us from Sterling, Illinois, and this truck from Jefferson County, New York. And what I love about this truck, on there is a sticker, the flag of the state of Virginia. And it says the words, Sic Semper Tyrannis, which means thus always to tyrants, death to tyrants. That was the motto, really, of Thomas Jefferson, the namesake of Jefferson County. And so I just want Americans to realize that when there are Russian rocket attacks here on Odessa City, it's these guys racing to the scene, often knowing that you could be facing another missile any moment. The Russians tend to attack once the firefighters arrive. But I want Americans to visualize this on today, 9/11, 2024, that these fire trucks, including this one from New York, is racing to the scene. All the images we think of as 9/11 in America, that happens here all the time. But on the positive side, it's Americans, like your friend Chris Manson from Chicago, who helps donate these trucks.
Thank you very much, USA and Greece.
Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Glory to the US.
Before we continue, we invite you to follow our channel, the only American show reporting live from Ukraine every day.
During the debate last night, former President Trump did not say whether he wanted Ukraine to win the war against Russia. He did say he would end it quickly, and it needs to end fast. Let's get some reaction. Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine. Joseph, did you have a chance to watch the debate last night?
No, I did not. I mean, I woke up at some point in the middle of the night here in Odessa, hearing some air raid alarms, although it ended up being a quiet night here. But I decided to go back to sleep instead of watch it, even though I was awake at the time. But I have read the comments on the portions of when the candidates were speaking about Ukraine, and this is a big topic here in Ukraine today. Of course, I think there was deep concern, of course, that former President Trump couldn't even say that he would want Ukraine to win. I think everyone here. I mean, that's what it's such a difficult thing. When Ukrainians and Americans here, I mean, they're standing for this idea of freedom, which is what Americans talk about, and American politicians talk about, and to not even have that idea respected, because this war could be over if Ukrainians had surrendered, if they had given up their territory. And think of cities like Kherson, that was occupied by Russia for many months, and then it was liberated, or Kharkiv and Kyiv even, that almost fell into Russian hands, and today they're free places. And so for that not to be respected is very heavy and difficult. And then when Vice President Harris spoke about some of the help that has come, that the Biden administration has sent to Ukraine, and while that's appreciated, so I guess the attitude here is what Vice President Harris said is a bit more hopeful, but there's no indication that there's a change in policy from the current administration. And that support has been very slow. And, Vice President Harris mentioned the Abrams tanks and a few other pieces of equipment that have come here. And she said that Kyiv would have fallen were it not for that equipment. But the fact is, Kyiv, the reason Kyiv didn't fall was because of the people of Kyiv. Those in those early days in the spring of 2022, the support from Washington was not strong. It took a long time, month by month, to make the case to get, for example, the F-16s that only just arrived here. And so I think overall, looking at that debate, it's kind of hard for Ukrainians because there was not a strong sense on either side, although a bit better from Vice President Harris, but not really a strong sense. And today, today being September 11th, just sort of by coincidence, I had a visit with the firefighters here in Odessa. And, these guys are going to, every time there's a rocket attack, they're at the scene. Oftentimes during some of the bad drone and rocket attacks, as the firefighters were telling me today, they'll be on the scene for 24 hours or more. But what is greatly encouraging, and as I saw at their sort of hidden headquarters today, they have American fire trucks. These big, beautiful fire trucks. There's one I saw from Jefferson County, New York. It had Thomas Jefferson's phrase on it: "Sic semper tyrannis," death always to tyrants, thus always to tyrants. And then there was a truck from Sterling, Illinois, and outside of Chicago, and donated thanks to the efforts of a Chicagoan, Chris Manson. When his at the beginning of this in 2022, his 7-year-old daughter said, "What can we do to help?" And so that inspired him to create this project to bring ambulances and fire trucks here to Ukraine. And this fire truck from Sterling, I mean, it looks, it's like out of Hollywood, and it looks very different from the European style fire trucks you see here in Ukraine. And it has the American siren. And that siren actually sounds like an air raid alarm. So it kind of puts people on edge at first, but it has become such a sign of hope here. It's at the site of almost every single rocket attack. And on 9/11, a day when we think of, the sacrifices of the firefighters and the first responders in New York, and Ukrainians talk about that too. But then you think of, there's many 9/11s that have happened here these past 2.5 years. But to see how the Americans, do send support. And when I was in the storage room at the volunteer fire headquarters, you see American flags everywhere. So really encouraging. And then also incredibly tough stories. I mean, Serhiy, who's the chief of this volunteer unit, he was describing, I mean, when there's a rocket attack, often for 24 hours, they'll be on the scene. Sometimes there are people who somehow survive under the rubble for 6 hours. There are miracles, but then there's also a lot of tragedies. And he says, it's really hard to get out. You can't get out of your mind, the sight of, the dead children, or, say you hear the cries of a husband who just, realized that his wife was killed in that attack. And just the intensity of going through the rubble, which is, a feeling that America knew on 9/11. And that happens here, almost every single day.
Yeah, it's amazing to think 23 years ago, and September 11th, of course, as I mentioned at the top of our broadcast today, for a younger generation, they remember where they were, what they were doing, the way some of us remember the day of the JFK assassination. And I mentioned my parents always talked about the day they remembered when FDR died. Joseph, we have a little sound from your visit with Ukrainian firefighters next to the fire trucks donated by a Chicagoan, including one from Sterling, Illinois. Let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about it.
Thank you, Chris Manson. You say ambulance for Ukraine and people. Oh, my friend Chris Manson in Chicago. I am Chief Voluntary Firefighters Department in Odessa. Thank you, Chris Manson. You say ambulance for Ukraine and people USA. It's big help in Ukraine. Thank you.
We love the Chicago area connection, Joe.
Yeah, well, you can hear that's Serhiy, the leader of the volunteers here, and you can hear in his voice, I think, the gratitude, and the real affection for. And he texted Chris, say, make sure you tune into WGN this morning. If he wasn't already doing that, so maybe he's listening. But to know that this, to see those gleaming American fire trucks here is a sign of all the goodwill people throughout the world, and especially from America. And the word in Ukrainian for volunteer, like volunteer firefighter, if you break up the roots of it, it means the free will, but the word for will in Ukraine, volia, is like the sacred Ukrainian word for freedom. It means this deep idea of the will to be free. And so the name of these volunteer firefighters literally means the people who will to be free, and this very this sort of sacred attachment to this idea of not living under tyranny.
Appreciate you bringing us those human interest stories, as always. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important, that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Что он сказал?
Well, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Come on now. which side are you on? На чьей ты стороне?